Hello, this is Susan Woods, your Black Lives Matter fraud investigator. Thank you for your time. I'm going to do a deep dive, comprehensive examination of the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation's Form 990 information return for the year 2020. I'm going to examine each section by section, to explain some of the red flags that I've discovered. Now, this is the second time I'm recording these video examinations because I want to make them shorter. The other ones are still on the YouTube channel, and you're welcome to view them. However, I want to make them short and to the point by focusing on only the red flags instead of explaining every part of each section. So the first section that I'm going to talk about is the section entitled Heading. So let's get started. The Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation earned 501c3 nonprofit status in December of 2020, December the 2nd of 2020, as you can see on the date on this determination letter. I'm focusing in on the determination letter first before going to the Form 990 information return, because there are two important pieces of information that I would like to share that is going to be relevant to the Form 990 information return. The first piece of information is the accounting period ending, which is December the 31st. The accounting period ending is the month that a nonprofit organization chooses to use as the fiscal year end when it applies for 501c3 nonprofit status. So during the application process, you have to select which month your nonprofit organization wants to use as its fiscal year end. So in this case, the person who completed the Form 1023 for the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation in 2020 chose to use December the 31st as its accounting period ending, or the fiscal year end, same thing. This is important because it determines when your Form 990 information return is due. The Form 990 information return is always due by the 5th month and the 15th day after the fiscal year ends. So in this case, the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation Form 990 information return would be due by May the 15th of the following year. So that's an important point that I want you to jot down or remember. Again, the accounting period ending determines when the Form 990 is due, because the Form 990 is due 5 months and 15 days after the accounting period ending. Therefore, the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation's Form 990 should be due by May the 15th of the following year. The second thing I want to point out is the effective date of exemption. The effective date of exemption is August the 28th, 2020. And this is the date in which the Articles of Incorporation are filed with the Secretary of State's office. Again, the effective date of exemption is the date in which the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation's administrators filed the Articles of Incorporation with the Secretary of State's office. So that's another important date to remember. So two important points that I'm pointing out from the determination letter for the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation that are going to be very important in just a few moments. So now, what is the Form 990? Let's talk about what it is before we look at it. The Form 990 Information Return, or Form 990, is an annual report the IRS requires all 501c3 nonprofit organizations to submit to provide information about revenues and expenses for the prior year. The type of Form 990 nonprofit organizations submit depends on the type of nonprofit organization it is and the amount of revenues and assets the nonprofit organization has on record. Form 990s are due by the 15th day of the 5th month after the fiscal year ends, like I explained. For example, if the fiscal year ends on December the 31st, as the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation indicates on the determination letter, then the Form 990 is due by May 15th the next year. And finally, the primary purpose of the Form 990 is to demonstrate transparency and accountability to the public. So in addition to keeping the IRS updated on what you're doing, we need to know too, as the public, what you're doing. And if a nonprofit organization fails to file the required Form 990 for 3 consecutive years, then the IRS will automatically revoke the 501c3 nonprofit status. So it's very important to submit the Form 990 each year, even if your organization does not provide any services, is not receiving any revenues, you still want to submit a Form 990 information return. That's important. So let's take a look at the return of organization exempt from income tax, or the Form 990 information return for the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation for the year 2020. So this is the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundations Incorporated Form 990 information return for the year 2020. And as you can see, it's open to public inspection. So anytime you want to see a Form 990, just ask for it. But like I said, I'm only going to focus in on the red flags that I've identified instead of talking about the whole entire section. So the section that we're going to focus on in this video is called the heading. So everything that's highlighted in yellow is a part of the heading. And the heading is divided into lines. So you have line A, line B, line C, line D, and so on and so forth. And again, I'm only focusing in on the red flags that I've identified in the heading. Now, the red flags are things that I believe are incorrect in this document. So let's take a look at the red flags. The first red flag that I identified is line A for the 2020 calendar year, or the year beginning July the 1st, 2020, and ending June 30th, 2021. Well, you remember the determination letter said their fiscal year ended on December the 31st, not June the 30th. So why did they make this change? Why did they indicate on the Form 990 a different accounting period ending date than they had on the determination letter? This is what I believe. I believe that they changed the fiscal year end so that they would not have to account for the money they generated in May and June of 2020. May and June of 2020 represented the highest period of donations that this organization ever experienced, because it came right on the heels of the George Floyd murder. And that's when everybody was just throwing money at this organization. It had no structure, no type of accountability or transparency rules and regulations in place. So instead of accounting for the entire year, as they stated they would do on the determination letter, they changed the year end to reduce the amount of revenues that they had to report by almost $10 million. So that's the first red flag. The second red flag is the gross receipts. The gross receipts that they mentioned on their Black Lives Matter 2020 impact report, which is on their website, was $90 million. And that is what you heard them talk about in the media, that the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation generated $90 million in 2020. But the gross receipts that they documented on this Form 990 information return for 2020 is not $90 million. Instead, it's $79,644,823. So when you subtract that amount from 90 million, you get over $10 million difference. And that's, I believe, intentional. So that's red flag number 2. The third red flag is the board member. Charlamagne Bowers is the board secretary for the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. And while Patrisse Cullors was in charge, she gave him $2,167,894 for consulting fees. And that is a direct violation of any nonprofit bylaws. That's a conflict of interest, because you can't serve on the board at the same time as serving as a consultant being paid over $2 million. It just doesn't make sense, because how can you serve on a board and vote for your salary on the board as a consultant? So that's red flag number 3 for me. The fourth red flag that I identified is the year of formation. Formation means, when did you file your articles of incorporation with the Secretary of State's office? Now, you may recall on the determination letter, we learned that the date of formation was actually August the 28th, 2020. But here, the year of formation is 2017, and the location of formation is in Delaware. So that's a red flag to me, because right now, when I went to Delaware, Secretary of State's office, I looked at the status and it's not in good standing. But not only that, like I mentioned, a second problem with this is the year of formation is 2017, but the year of formation on the determination letter says August the 28th, 2020. So that's not adding up. So these are the 4 red flags that I've identified on the heading of the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation's Form 990 information return for the year 2020. Now, like I said, I went to the Delaware Division of Corporations, or Secretary of State's office, and I pulled up the information for the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. And they actually filed in Delaware 2 years. They filed one time in November of 2016, and then they filed again in October of 2017. But again, neither one of those years match up to what they claim they filed on the determination letter of 2020. So I don't know how that's working. I don't know where the 2020 date came from. But that's just another example of so many mysterious things that happen with the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Like I always say, you need a forensic accountant or a forensic investigator to find out what is really going on with this organization, because I'm convinced they are intentionally trying to confuse everybody about their records. And then people are just like, you know what, forget about it. They just got away with the money. I don't even care anymore. So here are the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation's red flags, just for the heading section, for the heading only. Again, number 1, the calendar year is different from the determination letter. That's on page 1, line A, red flag number 1. Number 2, the board secretary received $2,167,894 for his consulting business, which is a violation of the conflict of interest policy. That's on page 1, line F, red flag 1. The gross receipts are different from the 2020 impact report. The 2020 impact report is on the blacklivesmatter.com website that you can go to and download, and it would tell you the gross receipts was $90 million in big yellow font, huge font. So you can see it there for yourself, but they don't claim that on the Form 990 information return. So that's on page 1, line G, red flag 1. And then the Delaware Secretary of State states that it's not in good standing for either year that's filed, 2016 or 2017. However, the filing doesn't match the date on the determination letter, which is August the 28th, 2020. So that's red flag, another red flag. Page 1, line L, number 1. So there are a total of 4 red flags just on the heading section. We haven't even gotten into the other parts of the Form 990 yet. We're just on the heading. So that lets you know that this organization is just a fraudulent organization. And another thing that I want to point out to you before I let you go is the fact that if you go to irs.gov and you search for this organization and you look for the Form 990 information return, you won't find it. You won't find the correct version. Let me show you. I'm going to pause my screen just for a second so that I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. And I said, if we can't go to the IRS website, where can we go to get correct information about organizations? It's just ridiculous. But let me go just one moment, please, because I think it's important to show you what I'm talking about. So when I go, let me pull this back up for you. Thank you for your patience. So this is the irs.gov website, of course. And when I click on charities and nonprofits, and I scroll down, and I click on search organizations, and I scroll down again, and I click on tax exempt organization search, scroll down once more, search for tax exempt organizations. I'm going to type in the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation's EIN number. That's the number that you can search by to look up any 501c3 nonprofit organization. And when I do that, you see it says Black Lives Matter Foundation, not Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. And that was the first red flag for me, because when I looked this up before, and I know I have videos to prove it, it was listed as the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. But nevertheless, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to scroll down, and here is the determination letter that I've been referencing. But I'm going to keep scrolling down, and it says copies of returns. That's copies of the Form 990s. When I saw this, I said tax year 2020 Form 990 EZ. I was like, what in the world? This was not here just a few months ago, because there's no way in the world it can qualify to complete a Form 990 EZ, because a Form 990 EZ is only used when you've earned less than $250,000 a year. So there's no way it qualified for that. So I'm like, what is going on? So then I expanded it and I clicked on it. And look at this return. Look at this return. Where is the information? Where is the money? If I'm gonna increase the size. So I'm like, okay, why, first of all, why is it an EZ? Why is it 2020 for an EZ? It looks totally different from the official document that I downloaded. Listen, the document that I downloaded that I'm sharing with you, I went to the IRS website to get it. I went to get it. So I don't know what this document is. It says no revenues. So I'm like, what is going on? This is so strange for the Internal Revenue Service to not have the correct Form 990 information return for the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation when it had it before. That's where I got it from. So I said, okay, there are other places you can go to find out that information to get the correct form. So I went to Guidestar. Guidestar provided me with the current document. So I'm going to demonstrate how I went to Guidestar. And you can go to Guidestar too. It's www.guidestar.org. And it stores Form 990 information returns for 501c3 nonprofit organizations. So when I click on the search, I went to Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation and click on search. And it's going to list several Black Lives Matter organizations. There are so many organizations with the names Black Lives Matter in some form or another. And the reason for that is the Copyright Office would not put a copyright protection on the words Black Lives Matter because it is too popular now. So they refuse to put a copyright protection on it so anybody can use the words Black Lives Matter. Now, I found the Black Lives Matter Foundation. It's not listed as the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. I verified the EIN is accurate, so I'm going to click on it. And you have to set up an account in order to look at the information. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on tax forms, show 990s, and I want to see the 2021 tax form. Now, I don't know why they had it listed as 2021. That's confusing because it's actually the 2020 tax form. But anyway, I guess because the ending year is now 2021. Nevertheless, this is the correct form. As you can see, it matches the one that I've been demonstrating. It just looks a little different from what I have as far as the format goes, but the content is exactly the same. But again, I'm just confused as to why the IRS doesn't have the correct version on its website when it had it on there initially. That's where I got it from. Another problem that I have is that the blacklivesmatter.com website doesn't have it listed there either, not the 2020 version. So it's just an ongoing process of being frustrated with trying to get accurate information. It requires so much time and energy to do it. And like I said, I have a video and I'm going to find it. There's a video where I demonstrate how to download the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation's Form 990 information return for 2020 from the IRS.gov website. So I don't know why it's not there anymore. So let me wrap up this presentation. Like I said, I wanted to make it shorter by focusing in on just the red flags. So now let's talk about next steps and what we're going to learn next. Sure, I'm showing you the right screen. Okay, thank you. So next, we're going to look at part 1 of the Form 1020, the Form 990 information return, and it's called Summary. And in the summary, we're going to talk about activities and governance, revenue, expenses, and net assets or fund balance. We're going to talk about this information in our next video of examining the Form 990 information return for the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. I'm Susan Woods, your Black Lives Matter fraud investigator. Thank you so much for your time and have a great day.